Hello, my name is Karl Meneghella and I'm at Priya Sihimonaraja Buddhist University here in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. And today I have two very special guests. I have Mr. David Perrodin and Mr. Steve Cochrane. I'd like to start with David. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Oh, sure. I'm David D. Perrodin. I'm a university lecturer. I've been working outside of the United States for nearly 2 decades teaching English.
A lot of experience there. Where did you study in the US?
I did a bachelor's in secondary education and a master's of arts in teaching in the Philippines.
Very interesting.
Yeah, one of the better teaching programs on this side of the world, to be honest. Yeah, really nice.
Very good. And Steve, where are you from?
Oh, I'm from the UK. I'm from Nottingham. I studied my first degree there, was in engineering. I then went on to the People's College and at a PGC, that's an educational degree. And then I've studied further while I've been in Asia. I've been living here for 22 years in total, full time in Thailand.
So those of you who have English as a second language, today you have the experience of hearing a United States accent, a UK and an Australian. So good luck with that. Anyway, first of all, I'd like you to share some examples of people talk about English as the language of inclusion.
Yes.
All right. If you'd like to just maybe share an example or your opinion of it, or your thoughts about it. Maybe we start with Steve.
Okay. Well, English as the lingua franca has become probably the norm because 90% of research papers and scientific papers are in English. Not by any intention, it's just happened that way, I guess, over a period of time. And therefore, smaller countries in Asia, if you're not careful, you can become isolated and separated from surrounding countries. Example, if you go from Cambodia to Thailand, where I live, not many people will speak Cambodian. So then there's a communication problem. So I've had, where I was working in Thailand, I've had classes, mixed classes of Cambodian, Lao, and Burmese students. And so, there's been a problem, a communication problem. And so we have to overcome that.
So you have 3 very different languages.
Oh, yeah.
So the language of inclusion is?
English, yeah. It just automatically descends to English, yeah. But it's also, the English language is very explicit. It's good at describing things, explaining things. Even in Thailand, the statute law books are written in English because the Thai language is not adequate to make the law clear. So they actually have to write the law in Thailand in English, which is, I found that amazing, so.
David, you have many, many years of experience. Would you like to share your viewpoints or your thoughts about English?
Yeah. Did you hear, Carl? Many, many years of experience. You can tell it on my face.
I mean that flatteringly. Flatteringly.
Yes. Well, to build upon what Steve said, I have traveled all over the world. I've taught English or been a part of creating different type of English programs for just name it, right? And I find that if a person is quite proficient in using English, then they have opportunities that they might not have without English. And that they become more competitive in the international circuit.
Can we focus on that for a second? Because I know that you do a lot of work with business as well.
Right.
And I think there's a thing here, you hear of student mobility, but there's also career mobility. So if you have student A with one language and student B that has the language and English, student B has the whole world to choose from. I think that's a really important thing. And you would have seen that in your teaching life as well.
Well, to be honest, I don't want to sound very harsh here, but it all comes down to money. The more languages you are proficient in, the more opportunities you have to make more money. And I have friends, farmer students, who studied in Thailand, right? And they're Thai, and they became quite proficient in using English. They were able to relocate to Western countries, US, UK, Australia, and they are making, my goodness, more money in 1 month than they would make in 1, 2, or 3 years working in Thailand. And as a result, they're able to create generational wealth, I guess I can say. And so just becoming proficient in English led them to the opportunity to, like in Thailand, they say take care of. So they were able to financially take care of their parents and their grandparents and their children and their grandchildren. So it's, yeah.
I think that's a real motivator for people, is that having English and being proficient in English actually changes lives, and it starts off changing your life, and then you're able to change other people's lives. So if English is so important, could you share maybe some insights or tips and tricks for students to improve their English and to keep on improving, so continual improvement? Any ideas, Steve?
Yeah, well, I've had students that have come to me and surprisingly good in English. And one of the best students I had was a guy in Thailand, and I said, "Where did you learn English? Because it's so good." He was way ahead of his classmates, and he just watched a lot of movies with subtitles, and his English was excellent. He'd really learned, but maybe he was just naturally good at language. It's like some people are good at music, some people are good at sports. Some people are maybe good at language, but his English was excellent.
So predisposition towards language.
Yeah, that can happen, of course. But he was excellent. And then I've had other students who I've had them for 4 years throughout their bachelor's degree, and they came in to the class with very little English, the worst student in class, and they worked extremely hard. And by year 4, they ended up being the best student in class.
Could we focus for a minute on the notion of time? So you had students for, say, 4 years, right? Some of them work hard and they're motivated and they improve dramatically. I think a lot of people would like to know, are there any other little tips or tricks? Maybe if I address this to David, things that students can do apart from, say, watching movies.
Okay. Other
things that they could do.
Well, as a teacher, right, I'm very good at teaching. Very, very good. I'm not bragging, I'm making a point. And if a student wants to become highly proficient in a language, they need to be equally or better than me at learning. So I can teach, I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make them drink. So if a student has intrinsic motivation or internal motivation, then there's nothing that can stop them from learning. So you want to know a tip. One of the tips that I tell, let's say students in secondary school, I tell the parents have to be the cheerleaders for the students. And when you are in university level, tertiary level, you have to understand that you are young adults, and there has to be some sort of motivation to be better. And if you want to learn English and become proficient, there's one thing I want to tell you. Please don't worry about making mistakes. I've been in Thailand nearly 20 years. You've been there longer, right? Yeah. And I speak Thai every day. I make mistakes all the time, but that's how I learn. And people are supportive. So just never be afraid. Just try. Parents, be cheerleaders for your learners, and it will be fine.
Can we focus for a minute just on the idea of making mistakes? And I think a lot of people in Asia don't realize just how proficient they are at language. A lot of Asians have their national language. They have a dialect. They'll often, if they're near a border, they'll have the bordering country language and English. So it's not uncommon to find a person with 3 or 4 languages. Now, it may not be 3 or 4 at 100%, but it might be 100% of their national language. It might be 35% of English. It might be 40% of a bordering. But what I'm getting at is that they already should have things to be proud of, to be confident in. And so I think summing it all up is having practice, using motivation, have the intrinsic motivation to practice and take a risk, engaging in conversation where and when you can. And I think the conversation is key as well, because that's when you learn the nuance, when you learn the pace and the phrasing of a language. But the last thing, I know that the old school would teach a lot of grammar. Yes. And I know my wife, who is Thai, has better grammatical knowledge than I have, right? What's your view about teaching grammar, or how should we be teaching English?
Well, when you learn your first language, you learn by listening. And then there's a correction process goes on from your relatives, parents and siblings. But usually by the time children are 5 or 6 and they go to school, they're already proficient in their own language. They don't know the alphabet. They've never had a grammar lesson, but they can construct sentences. So that tells you that human beings around the world are programmed to learn a language. And it's a skill, it's not an academic subject. You can't learn to ride a bicycle by reading a book. It's impossible. You can't learn to play football and be a good footballer by reading a book. You get out there and you play, you make a lot of mistakes, you fall down, you get hurt, but you get up, dust yourself off, go again. And really, that's the essence. I never think about grammar when I speak as a native speaker. Never think about English grammar. So why are we imposing that on students? And I think the thing is, it's easy to do a grammar lesson. It's easy to write an exam paper based on grammar. So it's convenient for the teacher, but it's not helping the student to speak confidently.
We're very excited here at PSB University, and the reason for that is the English program. This is done in conjunction with EBS Global in Sri Lanka. It's done in conjunction with the PSBU International program. It's done also with the Leadership Academy. David D. Perrodin and Steve Cochrane are two of our instructors who will be coming up to Phnom Penh and doing lessons here on a monthly basis, doing also lessons online. And it really is an opportunity for those of you who are interested in getting better at English. It's an opportunity to get that skill, that proficiency, and that, as David said before, that opportunity for a different life. So thank you very much, David. Thank you very much for joining us today. Steve, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.